After the attack of Arasaka's Night City headquarters that ultimately brought an end to the Fourth Corporate War, the bodies of both Morgan Blackhand and Johnny Silverhand were lost within all of the rubble down below. We've been told the story, or a fractured story, from Johnny's own memory or visions of it, and that was that Arasaka took his body and hit him with the Soul Killer program, although other stories tell of him being involved in the explosion and was left there at ground zero. Well, for a group of brave edgerunners in 2045, they were going to uncover one of the dark secrets of the Hot Zone and would go on to deliver what they thought was a body that could be Johnny himself for a techie who's extremely mysterious and only goes by the name of Angel. I reached out to Artalzorian Games and got the all clear to read this story for you all. However, I highly encourage you to check out the Cyberpunk RED core rulebook if you haven't already, because as you can imagine, it has all of the major lore written within it by some incredible writers of this great franchise. But with all of that said, let's get into the story. This is the story and the cyberpunk tale about a few people who were loyalists to Johnny Silverhand. This is a story named Black Dog. Blind man lost in the streets. A pattern here I need to see. Keep returning, keep trying to leave. Got a bad feeling that I need to feel. Black dog runs at my side. Down a road, no end in sight. The city sleeps, but in my mind, got a knot that won't unwind, unbind, untie? Frack. Ilayah wrinkles her nose as she tries to work out the next part of the verse. Sure, she can fill in the line with her own words, but that won't be his. It won't be what he would have said, and that's important. This might have been the last song ever. She needs to get it right. She owes him. A blind man lost in the streets. A pattern here I need to see. Trace looks up from his agent and the half-dozen screens he's got linked to it. You know, that's about the 200th time you've sung that. He slides back in his chair and stares pensively out of the sweeping glass window of the Conapt. And you keep changing the tune. It's fucking annoying, you know? He gives the rocker a mildly pissed off look before he relents. I know, yeah, but I don't know the tune. I don't have enough to work from. One crappy pirate data link from a crappy bunch of old recordings from a studio session that happened how many years ago? She looks up from her synth and glares at the media, who shrugs. Your problem is obvious, he observes. Yeah, you think? You need more brains on the problem. Put it out on a data pool. See if anyone bites back. Maybe there was somebody at the studio session that night. Someone who's still alive and didn't dump the memory. Trace flips the screen view from the story he's been working on. He's not making much headway anyway. Like Ilayah, he's only got fragments of the whole story. And the guy who told it to him, the old man, doesn't know the whole thing either. He taps the data codes to open his personal pool link to broadcast, holds his agent up to face Ilayah. Repeat it. Again. As much as I'm fucking sick of hearing it, repeat it. And Ilayah does. It's hard to say who's more surprised when 20 minutes later, there's a return ping on Trace's message link. The voice is a smooth contralto, with a slight metallic undertone. Female, or vodded to sound that way. I saw your post. I think I can help you out. In another part of Night City, Kepler is loading the upper minigun. It's been jamming too much and she doesn't want it to crank up when she's on the road away from a source of spares. She wipes her face with the back of her hand, the augmented one, and leaves a trail of cosmoline across her nose. She hears Pneumo chuckle from the corner of the combi where he sits when he's running the data pool. He's working on his pet project, a code frag he's been tracing for almost half a decade. What? Trace is posting some song Ilayah's working on. I think it's that thing she's been hammering on. His voice is rough. He doesn't use it much when he's in the face. Kepler throws a rag at him, then turns back to the minigun. I don't know why the frack those two haven't hooked up yet, she says absently. The netrunner flips up his goggles and begins to work through a stack of data chips. He's looking for something good he can turn into fast euro to fund their next trip on the road. Not everyone who works together has to hook up and get married, Kep, he replies. Voice still thick with London drawl. You and me are kind of unusual around these parts. Yeah, but Kepler pauses in mid-conversation. She's spotted something. Multiple silhouettes moving through the trash piles towards the combi. Sorry, busy new. She grunts as she hoists herself into the saddle of the minigun. Good thing I just reloaded, she thinks as she triggers the IR in her left eye and links to the gun's processor. Her amped vision IDs the shapes as the group of boosters trying to flank the combi's position. Looks like the Iron Sight's boys are back. She flips the safety off, swivels the gun and cuts loose. The roar of the heavy minigun shakes the whole combi, knocking boots off shelves and dishes across the kitchenette. Ironsight's gangers scatter, fall. Some drag their wounded out of the field of fire. She cuts the minigun. No sense in wasting ammo. Those guys aren't coming back for a while. "Hey Kep," says Pneumo, unplugging his ears with his extended cyber digits. "Trace just pinged me. Something interesting." Kepler grins. She was starting to get bored. Damien's just finished replacing the pistons in the forearm when the ping comes. Fracking Russian cyberware, he thinks, turning and letting his drone crawl down his arm toward the agent propped up on the workbench. The drone's mag clamp picks up the agent and brings it back to him. He talks out the side of his mouth as he struggles with the recalcitrant Russian arm. "Go ahead," he says. He doesn't actually need to talk to the agent. He's wired for full radio and audio. But customers appreciate the personal touch of seeing your face. He listens to Trace for a few minutes, then puts down the cyber arm and shuffles out of the workshop door. "Yo, Zara!" The Solo looks up from the target she's just been punching holes in. Not too many people practice archery these days, but she's always thought it was a useful skill. Silent, well ranged, and you almost always get your ammo back. "What?" she replies, slotting her optics back from targeting mode. "We in trouble or something?" Damien stands in the door of the ramshackle metal container office. "Nah," he says with a grin. "Just Trace and Ilayah. They want us to cover their high-priced butts while they check out one of Trace's story leads." Zara pushes in the retainers and the bow folds down into an easy-to-carry package. The arrows are also collapsible and she keeps them in a holster across her back. The bow isn't her only weapon. As a professional, she's also a crack shot with the Kang Tao she keeps in her shoulder holster. She shrugs. Trace is a reliable source of income, and he's a lot smarter than most of the clowns she gets as her principals. She's good with anything he comes up with. "Let's roll," she says, picking up her go bag and heading for her bike. "So, like I said, I think I can help you," she says. She is named Samantha, and she's 7 feet tall. Chromed from head to toe, she looks like a metal Amazon, down to the shaped metal muscles. Incongruously, she's wearing a tank top and warm leggings on a body that never feels pain or temperature unless she wants to. Full body conversion, thinks Damien. He's staring at her like a dog looking over a steak, not out of lust, but with the desire to get in there and dismantle her, to see how she ticks. Her cool blue cyber optics look him over, then through him, focusing on Ilayah. "You're the rocker boy?" Samantha asks in that smooth contralto. Ilayah nods and Samantha gestures to a couple of overstuffed leather sofas around a central coffee table. "Grab a seat," she offers. They do. Trace's trained eyes scan the room. It's like a garage. No, it is a garage, except with a few pieces of overly comfy furniture set up in strategic spots. There's even a huge feather bed off to one side, but 3 things stand out in particular. One is a full-size sports car parked in one of the vehicle bays, immaculately preserved for a vehicle 2 decades old. The second is a large framed hollow of a rocker boy, the legendary Johnny Silverhand, in an alcove surrounded by digital candles and assorted concert memorabilia. The last thing is a large wooden crate. It's about 8 feet long, 4 feet wide. It's bound with metal straps and has several sophisticated lock and defense devices bolted to it. Samantha sits down gracefully. Everything she does appears to be graceful. As they join her, she reaches into her silvery cleavage. There's a soft pop and a small panel opens between her breasts. She extracts a slim plastic wafer, a data chip. She holds it up in front of Ilayah. "What you have is just a fragment," Samantha explains. "Someone was there that night after the club was closed. They grabbed a sample before the bouncers threw them out. But what I have," and here she gestures with the slim blue chip, "is the complete song, recorded in his own voice, Johnny Silverhand." There's something in her voice, something that penetrates even through the perfectly wondered tones, a sense of awe. Both Trace and Kepler's eyes meet as they catch it. She's a Silverhand fangirl, they think at the same instant. She's been saving this chip like a memento all of these years. Samantha continues, "But before I give you this, I should tell you a couple of things. The chip was recorded by Johnny just before his disappearance in 2023, but it's been damaged by an EMP blast." Damien scans the chip with his eyes cranked to maximum magnification. After a few seconds he says, Radiation, right? Samantha looks surprised. How did you know? The tech shrugs. After the nuke, there were tons of blasted chips and other electronics around town. I'm a tech, right? I get people all the time bringing EMP damaged chips to me. I've gotten to know the signs. Samantha sits back thoughtfully. Well, okay then. The whole song is there, I think. But part of it is garbled, like an encryption. I'm no tech, I couldn't recover that part. I just made a copy of the original. This is one of those copies. Her eyes close as though she's remembering something painful. You can have it though, she says finally. Trace watches Samantha's face as she hands Ilayah the chip. Finally he says, so what do you want in exchange? Samantha looks surprised and resigned as the media says, this is Night City, Choomba. In this city, nobody gives anyone anything without a price. So name it. The Silver Lady slowly nods. Okay, just one thing, but it's kind of a big thing. She gestures to the large wooden crate nearby and says, I need you to deliver that to another place. A city in New Mexico. To a place called Los Alamos Labs. They're dragging the crate towards the combi. Samantha is with them, but toward the back. The gang drops in all around them. They drop the crate and a firefight ensues. In the staccato din of auto-fire weapons and the boom of the heavier guns, Kepler runs towards the combi, with Zara and Pneumo covering her back. Pneumo tosses a dazzler bomb at their pursuers. Reaching the driver's side, Kepler opens the cargo hatch in the combi's back. Meanwhile, Samantha has manhandled the crate up onto her shoulders. She staggers towards the combi just as the cargo hatch drops, slamming onto the street. She tells Zara to dump her bike out the back. She'll take care of it. Pneumo pushes the bike out onto the street and Samantha almost throws the crate into the cargo bay before staggering back. It's in! Now get out of here! She yells at the full deafening volume of her vodka. Damien yells to Samantha, you fireproof? Be a pretty stupid firefighter if I wasn't, she retorts, her overstressed ventilation system wheezing. Groovy, he yells, then opens up with a long tank hose unit he's pulled out of the back of the combi. A huge gout of fire streams out of the middle of the gangers. Napalm. Kepler guns the combi, blasts right through the fire and over the debris toward the road, pausing only to let Trace and Ilayah clamber aboard through the open doors. They hurtle through the wreckage of the glowing hot zone, pursued by several road warrior vehicles packed with gangers. By now everyone is shooting back at their pursuers. As they pass access points, Pneumo takes control of various cranes and other building machines, including a pair of huge Graph 3 construction mecha, which he uses to knock over one of the scaffolds surrounding a half-constructed building. The scaffold crushes one of the pursuing punknauts, but the rest keep chasing. Suddenly, Kepler slams a hard right and tears down between a row of stacked cargo containers. Gangers still glued to her trail, she slams through a security fence and into a large open area framed by hundreds of containers. From all angles, leather-clad nomads rush out with weapons. They recognize the combi as one of theirs and turn their fire on the gangers, who run from the fusillade of nomad fire. Kepler slams on the brakes, kills the motor. She slumps back in the seat as a large nomad with an immense handlebar mustache and a rakish Stetson cruises up to the driver's window. He's carrying a smoking M249 saw. He smiles and says in a friendly drawl, "Little lady, if you're planning to join up with the rest of this convoy, you're cutting it a mite fine, I'd say." Good thing the combi was big enough, comments Pneumo, with 4 of them now crammed into the passenger compartment. The combi is 29 feet long, shaped like a heavily armoured smooth-sided box. It can sleep 8-10 in a pinch. It's a standard design used by nomad families all over the southwest. Bathroom, kitchen and storage spaces are crammed throughout its capacious road frame. The combi is her home, the last thing Kepler ever got from her family in Florida. It's blinding midday. Heat shimmers rising off the line of endless asphalt headed east. Around them are dozens of vehicles. Low-slung cyberbikes, armed and armoured ground cars of all makes and models, assorted combis similar to their own, and towards the middle the gigantic looming shapes of the road haulers. The big, multi-jointed nomad ground truck trains that can carry tons of cargo containers, as well as space for at least half a dozen families each. "We're lucky they let us in," comments Pneumo with a grin. Kepler shakes her head. "Not lucky, babe. It's thanks to Trace. The Aldecados are like, well, fucking nomad royalty." She props her feet up against him. Pneumo is driving and she's taking the opportunity to rest her shoulders after her midnight hell drive. She adds, "You don't turn down the son of Old Man Aldecado if you still want a place in the families." A clink interrupts her explanation. Damien is tinkering with some upgrade to the combi's engine he plans to install when they camp down for the evening. Over the rush of highway noise, she can also hear Lilalia's synth pinging as the rocker tries to pin down the song she keeps working on. "A blind man lost in the streets, a pattern here I need to see. Keep returning, keep trying to leave. Got a bad feeling that I need to feel. Black dog runs at my side." Running down the main storage bay of the combi, taking up the space that would normally hold Zara's bike, is the crate. It's surprisingly heavy. It's also surprisingly well protected. Samantha has warned them in no uncertain terms not to open the crate. "Open it and you'll be signing your own death warrants," she says. "Even I can't open the thing. Just haul it out to New Mexico to the address I've downloaded to your agents and it's done." She's also given them several thousand eddies for expenses, but that's not the point. In Night City, if you promise someone you'll do something, you just do it. In the back of the combi, Zara sits, staring at her hands pensively. She finally reaches into her go bag and pulls out a large wrapped package. It stinks of Cosmoline, and as she unwraps it, she can see that the big gun has seen a lot of use, but it's been well taken care of all the same. As she was headed out of the garage, Samantha took her aside and pressed the package on her. "You should take this," the silver woman said. "He's not ever going to use it again, and I think you're the right person to carry it for him." Like Samantha, the huge automatic is silver chromed. Zara lifts it, sights down the barrel. It seems very heavy with some ineffable quality that's more than its weight. She thinks she knows what it is, but she's afraid to find out. Evening in the desert. While the rest of the group are gathering for food, Trace wanders over to the middle of the Nomad camp. He asks a few questions, then some more, until eventually, guided by the information he's gathered, he draws up to the fire next to a thin, long-haired man roughly around 40. The Nomad raises a metal flask companionably at him. "You drink, young Aldecado?" "You know me?" responds Trace, raising the flask and taking a swig. The Nomad nods. "I haven't seen you in a spell, but let's see. You're about 17 last time? I had a lot less grey in my hair then. You knew my old man, right?" "Yes, I did." "Mind if I ask you about something?" The Nomad chuckles. "Fire away, young Aldecado." "So the old man told me a bit about the Arasaka thing. About the bomb, the fight." Trace looks at the Nomad speculatively. "He said you were there." His companion nods, takes back the flask, and draws a swig. "Long time ago that." Trace just looks at him. Then to the fire, then back to the Nomad again. "When you're young, Chumba, you think you're immortal." The older Nomad reaches out, stirs the dying fire, then he looks back at Trace. "So old man Santiago never told you what went down that day?" "He told me some of it, but even he didn't know the end." "Well, that's because he wasn't there. He'd moved on a bit from his days of chasing around with Rogue and Johnny. Met your ma, settled down, ended up taking over the leadership of the family. But me, I was there to the bitter end. Was a lot younger then, of course. About your age, in fact. I was one of El Lobos, the wolves. The warriors of the Aldecados. Wore a lot of leather and carried a long rifle. Made a bit of a name for myself, in fact. So, let's see. We dropped out of the AV on the top floor. Shaitan covered the entry and Spider-Murphy was hacking the cyberspace defenses. Johnny, I don't know why he was there. Maybe he was feeling bad about not having rescued his compañera after all those years. Anyway, he was there with his big silver arm and his big silver gun, and we went in all the way down to where the Arrows had their lab, where they were keeping Silverhands' lady friend, 10 floors down into the building. Then they jumped us. They got the reporter guy in the first attack. We Lobos were pinned down. I lost my brother Antonio that day. Then that big bastardo, the Smasher, he came rolling in like La Tormenta. Would have killed all of us, but then Silverhands stands up and yells something at him and starts shooting. He had to know it wasn't going to do any good. Even that big silver gun wasn't going to stop the Smasher, but he tried and got torn up from his trouble. But it gave Shaitan a chance to get a grip on the Smasher and hold him while we grabbed the reporter and piled for the elevator to the top. We had to leave the rocker behind, we just ran out of time. Here's what I still don't get. We were carrying a suitcase. They didn't tell me what it was, but it was pretty heavy. And during the fight, I looked around for that Morgan guy, the head cabron, but he was nowhere in sight. He just took off with the suitcase. and I think he headed down the stairwell. I didn't see him until we were lifting off in the extraction AV, when he and that bastardo smasher went at each other. About a minute or two later, as we were pretty far away from the building, that nuke went off. Trace's eyes narrow. This is what he's been looking for. Early in the morning, dawn on the road. Kepler stays to the middle of the convoy, toward the back. After several hours dry desert scrub hurtling by endlessly, they spot something. A dust cloud rising in the back, way back in the heat haze. Trace pulls out his drone and deploys it. It streaks rearward, relaying its imagery back to the waiting media. After a few minutes, he grunts. "We got trouble coming. Bike gang." But not the normal road warrior type bikers. These guys are anything but the typical Go gang. It's nearly 50 Bozozuka bikers, the dreaded Japanese bikers heavily armed. These guys are elite. They have really good bikes armed with serious weapons, machine guns, grenade launchers, rockets. They're also really good looking. Japanese idol singer good looking. Ilayah is aghast. "We're gonna get killed by a fucking boy band?" she yells over to Zara. Up to now, Zara hasn't jacked into the gun, but this is a bad situation. No time to get warmed up on a new weapon. She pulls the link cable out of the butt of the big silver automatic, jacks it into her wrist. After a moment, her eyes blur. The targeting reticule with all of its accessories heads-up display overlay her vision. "I'd rather die," yells the solo back as she aims, fires, aims again in a ceaseless rhythm. Damien cuts in. "Was that guy wearing makeup?" Zara shakes her head. "Not well." Ilayah snorts, if you want to call it that. The Bozozuka unfurl tall black flags from the rear of their fenders and move in at a high speed. Kepler guns it, putting the combi further into the middle of the convoy. Then the horde of bikers are on all of them, engines howling. The pack of bikers flank the convoy. The convoy opens up. Weapons from combis and road haulers hammering, spewing shell casings all over the road behind them. Nomad gyrocopters sweep down from the sky, sweeping the horde with light autofire, but the bikes are hard to hit. They weave in and out of the convoy looking for something, probing, until they eventually spot the team's combi. While Kepler weaves in and out of the tightly packed mob of vehicles trying to shake their pursuers, Pneumo mans the top turret, sweeping heavy 50 cal machine gun fire downrange while struggling to avoid hitting any other members of the convoy. Meanwhile, Zara and Ilayah lean out of the armoured combi windows and start tagging targets as they move into range. A biker tries to cut in front of Kepler, aiming to block her. Kepler revs the combi and rolls over him. Another biker runs up the open ramp of a nearby road hauler and goes airborne, leaping over the combi and trying to drop a grenade on Pneumo. Without thinking, Zara snap shoots the grenade out of the air. The gun's interface seems to boost her situational awareness to absurd levels. It almost seems to take her over, giving her a seemingly supernatural accuracy and a palpably cold eagerness. Later, Damien will determine that the gun's cyber interface has been modified to create almost cyber psycho levels of feedback, damping down the user's normal emotional reaction to combat situations and giving them a robot-like control. But there's no time for that now. She keeps firing. Two bikers swing out of the driver's side, opening fire on Kepler's rear quarter. Damien pops up from one of the gun ports and dumps a combination of napalm and fire onto the road. The combi on the other side swerves and sprays the leading biker with autofire. The bike skids and almost crashes into Kepler, who yanks the wheel to the right to avoid the bullet spray. She slams into the biker flanking them on the passenger side, who spins out into his partner. They outpace the explosion as the road hauler runs down both fallen bikers. The big road haulers start dropping spike mats, disrupting the tight phalanx of the Bozozuku. Then there's a sound of jet engines getting louder, louder, with an ear-shattering sound of thunder. 3 Nomad AV4s drop in over the dry foothills, their red-eye directed miniguns hammering a high-pitched song of death. The big side doors roll back, revealing gimbal-mounted 50 cals that sweep doom from all sides. The Bozozuku try to rally, but the sheer volume of fire breaks their ranks. Protected by their hovering AV escorts, the convoy powers on towards the relative safety of distant Albuquerque. The convoy has pulled over in the tiny deserted ghost town of Grants, New Mexico. There used to be a Walmart in Grants. Its doors have since been busted out and the entire building has been well looted. But the immense parking lot is still there, covered in drifting sand in some places, and the convoy is using it to take time to lick its wounds and reload its weapons. Overhead, the AVs orbit, watching the road in either direction. But down in the combi, there's a new fight in progress. "Okay, what the hell is going on?" shouts Ilayah, sounding, well, pissed isn't half of it. Zara rubs her head angrily. "Yeah, what's so important that someone's willing to send a whole fracking army of mercenary bikers after us? Guys like that aren't cheap. That's corporate level shit." Pneumo shrugs. "Are you sure we were the target?" Trace shakes his head. "I had the drone out watching. The bikers swept through the whole convoy, then zeroed in on us. There's no doubt we were who they were looking for. Look, no one was trying to kill us before we took this job. Well, no one who wasn't usually trying to kill us." Ilayah gestures at the crate. "And they didn't attack us on the way in, only the way out." "After we picked up the crate," says Kepler. "Yeah," says Zara. "The crate." Everyone stares at everyone else. No one wants to ask the next question. Finally, Trace looks over at Damien. "So, been snooping around like I suspect you've been?" Damien looks a bit abashed. He spreads his hands. "Only external scans," he confesses. "And?" Trace prods. Yeah," says Damien. "Okay, it's using a lot of stored power. Pretty radioactive at one end. Won't kill us, but I'd say make sure your rad filters were working all the same." "You want me to try and hack the protective systems?" offers Pneumo. Kepler shakes her head in the negative. "I keep thinking about what the nice silver senorita said," says Trace. "The part about signing our own death warrants particularly stands out to mind." Zara grimaces. "Yeah, but someone's already tried to kill us twice to get this. That's what I call a pretty big hint." Pneumo laughs. Kepler folds her arms and glares at Pneumo. "I'm against this. There's a world of hurt in that crate, and I want nothing to do with opening it. We agreed to deliver it, and that's all we should do. On the other hand, if we were going to die," retorts Ilayah, "I'd rather like to know what we're going to be dying for." "Hell, I already know what's in there," Trace asserts. The rest of the group stares at him expectantly. He shakes his head. "It's Johnny Silverhand." They stare at him as though he's just announced he's a space lizard from Planet X, and he raises a hand before the arguments start. "Look, it makes sense. I ran a search on our Patron. She used to be a pararescue before the war. Firefighter. First into the wreckage when the nuke went off. Already had history with Silverhand when she saved him from a studio fire back in 2015. And she's a Silverhand fangirl. Maybe a Silverhand groupie even. I hear he got around a lot when he wasn't particularly picky. So Silverhand vanished right after the nuke. No one's seen him since. Word on the street was Johnny was working on a big job with some of his old mates. A hit on Arasaka. You put the clues together and it's obvious. Silver fangirlie found Johnny's body and put it on ice, and now we're moving it. "I've got past the ice," announces Pneumo suddenly. He's not one to wait around for the committee to decide. He looks over at Damien. "Your turn," he says. Tech hunkers down, working with his tools until there's a distinct click. Meanwhile, Kepler watches them both, furious. Damien and Pneumo stand back, removing the blocky protective locks as they do so. Then they punch the access switch. There's a dull chuff as the seals on the crate release. Damien slides back the top as Zara stands ready to open fire with the big silver automatic. The rest of the group peers over the lip of the crate. Packed tightly into the protective foam padding is an 8-foot long, 4-foot wide, high-vis grey cylinder shaped like a torpedo. It's covered in numbers, letters and many words in Japanese. Angry words. Largest in the center is a huge yellow and black radioactive warning trefoil. Everyone stands silent for a long time. Finally, Trace clears his throat. "Well, I guess I'm fucked," he says. They all stare at the crate and its deadly contents for a long while. Then, "I'm gonna have to tell the trail master," says Kepler. "They need to know." She sounds flat, almost defeated. "But why?" asks Ilayah, looking up from the ominous orange shape in the crate. Confusion is all over her face. "Because of the law of the broken wheel," replies Kepler. There are blank faces all around, save Trace's. He nods his head slowly. "The law of the broken wheel he repeats. Back even before the bad old days, the people who built the nukes wanted to make sure that even 1,000 years later, their descendants would know not to mess with the stashes and stockpiles of atomic weapons, old reactors, nuclear waste. So they spread the idea of the broken wheel, a simple iconography that even a post-Holocaust culture could remember. The atomic trefoil, it's the broken wheel. Every Nomad kid learns about it. It's one of our most important bits of culture. Nomads run into old atomics all the time. The law of the broken wheel is that when you find something with that symbol, you get out of there fast and you leave it alone. It is forbidden to travel on the broken wheel, intones Kepler solemnly, like a small child reciting a catechism. Convoys, scavengers, even pirate families avoid it like the plague. You're not allowed to keep anything marked by the wheel, and no family will carry it. It's an absolute taboo. She stands up, spreads her hands, face determined. You want to come with me, Trace? Just in. He also stands. I helped you lug it in. Guess I'll take the hit with you. Only fair, Tumba. They both rise and climb out of the combi, moving to the head of the mass of parked vehicles. Looks like Trace's connections weren't enough to keep us in the convoy after all, mutters Pneumo. Shut up, grates Kepler. Still royally pissed at you, she adds as she powers the combi down a dusty highway. The Trailmaster kicked them out at Albuquerque. The rest of the convoy is still headed east on US 40 to Oklahoma City, but their group is now traveling north of Santa Fe on a dusty, potholed road framed by dismal and lonely signs for Highway 84 North. It's a ghost road. Probably no one's come up here since the start of the war. Shifting sands cover parts of it, punctuated by cracked, overheated asphalt. They've covered a fair distance by the time they hear the sound of jet engines. Over the hills sweeps what Night City inhabitants call a Panzer, a light fan tank with Copham armor and a large 30mm cannon. It's way out of their league, and now it's blocking the highway. Well, grunts Trace, guess it's time to saddle up or die. Hey, so yeah, they have a tank. Big deal, says Damien. We've got a nuke. Not funny, snaps Ilayah, slamming a clip into her Minimi 10. They won't shoot at us, asserts Pneumo. The whole point is they get to the bomb. We're secondary. Kepler looks back at him momentarily. Maybe we should just surrender, New. But Trace shakes his head. We're witnesses. They aren't going to want to leave anyone alive, not if these guys are who I think they are. So we're screwed. Blued and tattooed, says Zara. She lifts the gun, pulls out the interface cable and plugs in. Might as well get ready for that last stand then. They're starting to take up positions when the Panzer explodes. Two attack AV-9s spiral out of the sun, miniguns driving a hailstorm of death before them. The remnants of the Panzer, victim of the lead AV-9's anti-tank missiles, is still a blazing inferno. Its ammo cooking off as the second AV-9 settles down to earth in a swirl of jet engines and kicked up dust right across their path. The cockpit of the AV slides back, flanked by an imposing pair of heavily armoured guards. A small female figure climbs to the ground. She's dressed in black armour, but instead of a helmet, she sports a cheerful pink beret. She waves to the dumbfounded group in the combi. Hi there, she calls in a clear, girlish voice. I'm Makiko. I'm here to rescue you. I owe you an explanation, Makiko begins as she sits down on the open crate, treating its contents as though a multi-kiloton atomic weapon was every day to her. I've been following you for some time, but I first had to deal with the problem back in Night City that delayed me. There's a pregnant pause which seems to imply that someone, somewhere, or maybe even a large number of someones are no longer among the ranks of the living. You're Makiko Arasaka, right? Avers Trace, his brow furrows. And Makiko smiles. I really haven't gone by that name since I married, but yes, I am Makiko Arasaka. She looks down at the orange cylinder she's sitting on and adds, I suppose technically this bomb is mine too. She laughs a twinkly little laugh that from anyone else would seem like something out of an anime, but from her seems singularly appropriate. You see, she continues in a quiet, purposeful voice, as soon as an atomic weapon was detonated in the towers, my father sent people in to examine the ruins. When they found that the weapon was actually a Militech device, they were both relieved and concerned. Relieved because this meant Arasaka wasn't the cause of so much death and destruction, but concerned because what only a few people in the company knew was that Arasaka had also planted its own weapon in the towers, a much more powerful one, in the event that Militech was able to overrun the headquarters and take possession of the secrets inside. My father's men were especially concerned because when they searched for our bomb, the Arasaka weapon, it was missing. They determined that only a very strong person or a full body conversion could have moved it. So they used radiation scanners to track the trail and eventually found that the device had been hidden in the basement of a nearby garage owned by a firefighter paramedic named Samantha Stevens. Unfortunately, my father passed away. He died before he could give the location team further instructions, so the decision was made to just leave the bomb where it was, but to keep a watch on the garage and the firefighter unless it was moved. And it stayed in the garage for 15 years until now. So you had your own bomb? Presses Trace, but before Makiko could respond, Pneumo leans over, waving his agent in front of her. And these are the trigger codes, aren't they? He says, his cool British tones laden with amusement. Makiko's eyes scan the agent's screen and widen. These could very well be them, she confesses. It is one of my father's command codes. She looks up, and the large brown eyes narrow. How did you get these? She asks, the girlish voice shifting to a sharp staccato of practice command. Pneumo's grin is triumphant. I've been trying to track down what these went to for the past 5 years. I pulled them out of a system that was later tracked to a drifting yacht. As it happens, a yacht owned by your late father. He and Makiko exchange smiles like friendly sharks, interrupted only when Kepler cuts in with a dry, and he's been a regular pain about it too. She smacks Pneumo on the head with one hand, but not too hard. And that's why they've been tailing us, says Zara flatly. Arasaka wants to make sure their nuke never makes the headlines. No, they want to make sure whoever does have it doesn't set it off, counters Pneumo. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has the deck codes by now. I know there were others looking, much as I tried to cover my tracks. In my case, I really didn't know what the codes went to. I just wanted the answers. But you can bet the other hunters do know, especially if they also worked for Arasaka. And someone wanted this thing to be taken off the market because the other guys could find it. Damien cuts in, and his expression turns grim. Los Alamos was a famous nuclear facility, back before even the collapse. Stands to reason if there's any place you could get a nuke dismantled safely, it would be there. I have renounced the name of Arasaka, says Makiko, a small voice still hard and flat, but I have not renounced the responsibility of that name. Far from it. And there are factions in the company that would use this weapon for their own ends. Some would use it to discredit what little goodwill Arasaka has rebuilt after the war. Some would use it as a threat to make Arasaka more powerful, able to blackmail cities, even governments. It was because I had to deal with those people first that I was delayed from coming to your aid sooner, and for that I am truly sorry. Makiko stands up, her girlish demeanour instantly gone, as though a switch had been flipped. I am the heir of Kei Arasaka, she continues. No matter what I feel about my legacy, I will act and help you take this demon's tool to a place where it can be properly disposed of. She looks up at the group around her. Will you agree? Damien chuckles. We can be on the side of the big ass gunships, or we can be up against the big ass gunships. Sounds like an easy choice to me. He raises an eyebrow, cyber optic glinting in the harsh light. Anyone think different? There are various nods of assent. The die is cast. The rest of the trip is uneventful as the Black AVs hover overhead protectively. About midday they peel off to the north. Makiko radios a cheery good luck, and then they reach the front gates. Los Alamos Labs is huge, covering an infinity of acreage. Most of it is falling apart. No one's been here in a decade as far as Kepler can tell as she threads through the maze of rusting security gates and warning signs. Over her shoulder, Trace is reading Samantha's directions from his agent, while Pneumo tries to pick up any kind of net system still active in the endless ghost town. There, gestures Trace at last, pointing to the left. Kepler makes the turn and comes to a stop in an outside lot filled with assorted derelict ground cars. This is building PF4? Says Damien in disbelief. This is the heart of America's nuclear deterrent? He snorts. The plutonium lab is a nondescript 2-story brown building in a clutter of nondescript buildings. If it wasn't so huge, you wouldn't even notice it. Is it safe to get out? Asks Ilayah. Damien shrugs. We've all got enough anti-rad drugs in our system to pretty much stop anything short of a gamma burst. But the counter reads low background. That thing in the crate is probably emitting more heat than what's outside. Zara climbs out of the combi, the big silver gun drawn. Then she freezes. A half-dozen security cams are watching them. There's a tiny hum as 2 roof-mounted autoguns track in line with the cams. Frack. Then a woman's voice comes out of hidden speakers. I'll bet Sammy gave you that. Zara nods slowly, holding it up. The voice continues. Hang tight. I'll be right down. A long minute passes before one of the heavy shielded rolled-up doors finally opens and a blonde woman in battered work clothes emerges. She waves and walks over to them. "Hey, you're the guy Sammy sent? Welcome to the lab. I'm Angel." She offers Zara a slim, well-calloused hand. "Glad to see you made it." The blonde woman is tall and almost ethereally beautiful, but in a way that seems to reflect a life of hardship and pain. A large text tool belt hangs loosely around her waist. As the rest of the group climbs out of the combi, weapons at the ready, she grins and walks over. "Rough trip?" Pneumo shrugs. "Been better." "You are drop-off?" Angel nods. "Mind if I check it out before delivery?" Kepler punches the ramp button and the back of the combi winds open to reveal the loading bay. Angel walks over to the crate and looks into it. "Looks like a bomb to me," she says finally, then slaps her hands together in a businesslike way. "Well, let's roll it inside," she adds briskly, "so I can get the thing disarmed." Trace raises an eyebrow. "You're going to disarm it?" Angel nods. "Can't think of a better place to disarm a lost atomic warhead than a place that makes them." She whistles one short tone, and from the depths of the huge building a large powered transport car emerges. Damien nods to himself. Of course they'd use robotics here, he thinks. Place is probably too dangerous for most non-shielded people. The cart rolls to a stop between them, and Kepler maneuvers the combi's lift gate to slide the crate onto it. It sags under the weight. Angel gives a satisfied nod. "I'll have to thank Sammy for finding you. This thing has been on her mind since the day she found it. You've taken a real load off her shoulders." She turns back, raises a hand, exposing a thin blue plastic sliver, a cash chip. "You did a great job. I want to thank you too." Angel hands the chip over to Kepler, whose eyes widen as she reads the amount on its display. "Sonova." "You earned it," says Angel. "Go buy yourselves another combi or something." She whistles at the cart and it trundles back to the roll-up doors with the crate aboard it. Then she stops. "That's right," she says suddenly. "Sam told me you met because your rocker was looking for something." "Samantha gave me this data chip," says Ilayah. Angel nods. She pulls out a second chip. This one is a match for the one in Ilayah's hand and flips it to the startled rocker. "Here," she says. "This is a full recording of the song you wanted, made from the original studio version." Ilayah, protesting, says, "But how did you—" And as Angel reaches the door, she looks back and chuckles, and says with a lilt in her voice, "Sammy isn't the only Johnny Silverhand fango out there, you know." And then she and the crate are gone into the bowels of the huge brown building of PF4. There's a pause. Finally Trace says, "So now that we're filthy rich, want to see if we can buy a drink somewhere?" "Frack that," replies Zara. "Remember that place we passed outside of San Pablo?" She drops the big silver gun into the holster at her back and smiles. "I think we should go there and buy the whole fracking bar." "I'm dying," says Samantha over comlink. "All the dose I took when I moved the bomb has finally hit my spinal cord. Cancer." "You shouldn't have done it, Sammy," says Angel. "Or waited until I could have sent help." But Samantha shakes her head. "We didn't know who or what owns the thing. The rad detectors were going off all over the place from the last one. If I hadn't been full body, if I hadn't been a rad shielder firefighter, I would have been dead within the hour. As it was, I had enough time to clear all the important stuff out of the wrecked bunker and to get rid of the hot stuff at the bottom of the bay. And I thank you for doing that," Angel replies, then adds sadly, "Are you sure I can't do anything to help?" Samantha shakes her head. "I promised I would get him to you in the end. It took me a while to find the right people I could trust, but they did the job. Now my bit is over." She sighs, breathes heavily as if blowing hair that hasn't been there in 3 decades out of the way. "Gonna go get me a glass of good old rye whiskey, sit back on the couch, and when I feel it's about time, I'll hit the kill switch and shut down my life support." Carefully, Angel rolls the heavy bomb casing over. She punches a code into the small keypad now exposed. There's a hissing of compressed air, of utter cold that blows back her hair as the casing splits to reveal the blue-white ice of the hidden cryo chamber. She looks tenderly down at the dark, frozen face behind its masking curtain of ice. "Hello, my love," she says.
Black dog in my hair, guiding me to the end. Black dog in my hair, guiding me to the end.
As the final recorded copy of Black Dog plays out to end our tale, we are left with many questions going forward. Who is Angel really? What does she want with the body that is most likely Johnny Silverhand, and who put him in this mysterious cryo chamber? Was Johnny's memory of being captured by Arasaka actually the truth, or did something else happen that we haven't explored yet? Hopefully we get more of this specific story at a later date, and it would be great to learn more about this group of individuals who delivered the bomb to Angel and what they got up to before the events of 2077. Did they end up buying the bar? And what did they do with all of the eddies acquired from the job? But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this different type of video. There are many other Cyberpunk tales within the TTRPG stuff that I'd love to cover, so let me know if there are any in the comments below, or if there's anything else you would like to see on this channel. A big thanks to my patrons again for helping this channel keep making its content, including my small fishes, my YouTube channel Wise Ones, Video Game 75, Sith Lord 906 and Ethan Feldman, my big fishes Ben Chance, This Mind of Mine and Anthony Bonfiglio, my shark Dan F, my megalodons Hazy Thoughts and Sinus, and my incredible starfish Nanohertz. That is all for now though. Thank you all for watching once again, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.